record this one. I forgot to do that last time. All right, so here's a gigantic model, plenty of organization, and we'll get to that, but we're going to start out with something a little more simple. I'm going to import some geometry and do a quick mid-surface mesh, and then we'll get into grouping and visualization, just so you guys have a chance to see it from the raw CAD material here. So you can go ahead and mute all of you, just so we don't have any background noise. So it'll just be me. If you guys have questions, as usual, in the web meeting software, there's a section for questions, and we can do those on the fly. And then, as always, you can email me afterwards. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mid-surface this bracket here. And I'm getting a little background noise. Let me see here. It looks muted. Okay. All right, I'm going to do mid-surface automatic. And this is a pretty useful tool. You've probably seen it if you've seen any of our mid-surfacing webinars. And I'm going to do this, all surfaces on this solid. And I'm going to go ahead and select my target thickness. A little measuring tool there. And I will just measure right off of the model here. Okay, 25 mils about.
Hey, Adrian, this is George. Your screen doesn't appear to be updating.
Really? You got a little lag in the system here.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I just saw it. So maybe it's just on my system. If the audience out there, if you're seeing the same lag, ping a question back to us. So that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have the questions, and I'll try not to whip around the model too fast just because of the internet lag here. Okay, so I've got one mid-surfaced. If we check in the model tree, here's our original solids, and here's the mid-surfaces it's created. So let me mid-surface the gusset, and then I'll show you a little more with blanking and visualization of the solids. Okay, back under mid-surface, I did automatic last time. Another good one is offset tangent surfaces. Certain geometries, one will work better than the other. Here, we'll pick our seed surface. Use right-click, pick front to help me pick the correct surface that I want. Okay, and we'll just use the defaults there. And it automatically will make its best guess for how far to offset that distance between this and the opposite face. And we're going to leave the original solid. Okay, so over here in the model tree, you can see our original solids and the mid-surfaces that we've created. And now, what I really want to emphasize here is the capabilities of blanking things in your model. Where before we would have to use groups for everything, now we've got kind of a quicker and easier way to turn things on and off. So there you can see I've turned off the original solids, and they're not in a group, they're not deleted or gone, they're simply hidden from view. And so we'll keep them around for reference, but since we don't want them to get in the way of modeling, we can just turn them off. And then you can also see our three mid-surfaces here. They are individual sheet solids, and you notice the little icon for these is different than the body solids that came in from the CAD. Okay, so we just have a few things to clean up, and we'll have some non-manifold geometry. So you can see there's the gap between the gusset and the bracket, and so I need to extend that. Mid-surface, extend. And this is pretty handy if you guys work with mid-surfaces. These commands make things pretty easy. I'm going to extend by that curve, and I'm going to extend to this solid. And likewise for the bottom curve, to this solid. Okay, so there from a side view, you can see that it's very quick and easy, and we've got everything adjacent. Now we're going to use surface non-manifold add. Since we have this complicated geometry with these T intersections, the classic stitch, solid stitch, won't work. It won't share this common curve between the gusset and the bracket. I'm going to add all of these. You can see it highlights our free edges. We have no free edge along our junctions here. Okay, so we're ready to start meshing. I'm going to use different properties for the bracket and the gusset. That way we have some different properties to work with groupings later on. I'm going to do attributes on surface. We'll select to bracket. And I'll need to create my property, and I'll need the material as well. I'll just load something from the library, and we'll call this bracket. And when we measured the model, it was something around 25 mils. We'll just call them 25 units. Let's not get too specific here. All right, so I've got the bracket. Now I need my gusset. And we'll create another material or another property. The gusset. I'm going to change the color of this so that we can see the two different properties. That will be 25 units as well. Okay, so we have our mesh attributes and our materials, our properties all created. Now we'll set the size on the surfaces here. And we'll just use default. Now, my default view settings, I think our last webinar we covered setting up default views. You'll notice I've got my background color and all this preset. So if you guys want to learn how to do that, check out the website. We have some more information. But my default view doesn't have curves, and that's why you can't see the mesh size that I put on this. Let me use the visibility here. Also, the shortcut is Control-Q, and this controls turning on and off all the entities. And so if we turn on our curves, our points, you can just turn on everything. Now you can see my mesh size. Okay, I'm going to mesh geometry surface. Now, this is, we're viewing everything right here. If we do select all, you'll notice it'll pick up the surfaces on the original CAD solids. So that's something to keep in mind when you're blanking things out, is that if you select all, it'll still select things that are hidden, that are blank. So we are reset. We just want these surfaces here. There you go. And you'll notice in the model tree, I forgot to mention this, when we did our non-manifold add, we compressed our 3 individual sheet solids into this one single solid. So we can turn off the mesh, we can hide and show that solid here. All right, so now we have some mesh. Let's make some groups. The easiest and most powerful way to create groups is under Operations, Generate. And these things are very handy. They create the group and they add in entities based on geometric solids, properties, materials, element types. If you wanted to generate all of your plate type elements in one group. So I use these a lot. I've actually created a little toolbar over here that has all these set up in the default. But we'll look through the menus today. So first, generate solid. I'm going to generate a group from this non-manifold solid we created. Okay. And here it is here. These other groups were automatically created when we were doing geometry commands to create the mid-surfaces. So we'll go ahead and get rid of those. Okay, so here's this group I've created. I'm going to show the active group, and I need to activate this group. And you can right-click, activate. Also, double-clicking will do the same. So now we are viewing the active group. And this active group, that we generated from solids, you can see it has everything. It has elements. It has nodes. If we turn off the mesh, you can see it has surfaces, points, curves. So generate solids is very powerful. It creates a group with basically every type of entity that's related to that solid. We do other commands like generate property. We'll select all. We've got the two different properties. Click OK. We're going to make a group for each property, a separate group. And then we've got bracket. And I'll double click to activate that. You can see that we have the elements of that property. And here's gusset. Now you'll notice that this only has elements. There's no nodes, no curves, no points. So just something to keep in mind when you generate by property, that it only creates groups with elements in them. Okay, so another way to view these groups, right now we're using show active group, and we're activating different groups. Another way to view these is with the right click and show selected group only. And this kind of converts groups over to the blanking method, where you can add and subtract by simply checking or unchecking the boxes here. I'll show you where that comes in useful in a little bit. Well, let's go ahead and do some more modeling commands, and I'll work in the general body add group, and we'll show you how groups can affect the way that you model. Say we want to copy this gusset, and go ahead, mesh, copy element, and I'll select on surface. Okay, and we'll just copy over to the edge here. Okay, so I copied the element, and all of those elements have been gusset, and they're nowhere to be seen. You can see in the dialog here, copy element, you've got those elements copied. Our element count has gone up, but where are they? We show the full model. They were successfully copied, but we were viewing the active group, and they weren't automatically added to the active group. So this happens a lot, where people will be in an active group, they create something, and they don't see it. You know, you think it's a problem, but you just have to be mindful of if you're automatically adding to groups. I'm going to go ahead and undo back to the point before I've copied. Now under group operations, there's this automatic add command. Go ahead and click that, and we'll select active. That way any new entities that are created will be added to our active group. Now we'll repeat that mesh copy command. Snap to node, copy from here to here. There we go. So it's been added to the active group, and we're viewing the active group. This is more common than you'd think, that we're getting problems with stuff disappearing. You know, the program works well, and stuff usually doesn't just disappear. It's all about automatic add. Now, say we wanted to add to a different group. Say we were viewing this group. We wanted to copy a gusset, but we wanted it not in this group, but maybe in the gusset group. You can right-click and do the automatic add command from the groups over here. You'll notice once I've done that, it turns orange. It's activated. So now I'm viewing my active group here, but I'll be adding to group number 2. So mesh, copy. Previous, same elements. Okay. We'll copy this to the other side. There we go. So we've copied the elements, but they are not being automatically added to this group. They're being automatically added to this group. You can also see when we copied those elements, it created nodes. And so any new entities that were being created were added to that group. So this has the nodes that we created along with the elements. Those are just a couple of good things to be mindful of when you're working with groups, view active, and showing selected groups. The last thing I want to cover on this model with groups isn't really a new command, but it's very useful. I like it. We'll go back to show active, is combining groups. So classic Windows command, you hold either shift or you can hold control and select individual. We'll select multiple groups here, right click, and combine. Now this creates a new group with all of the entities of the groups that we selected to combine. That pretty much covers the basic grouping things here. I want to get into more visibility, blanking, and we'll do a quick run through on this model, and then we'll bump over to our transmission model, which has handfuls of materials, properties, solids, and is a little more ideal for good model organization. First, we'll walk through this one. Starting at the top, we cover geometry, turning on and off geometry. I'm going to show the full model so we see what's really happening here. Working down, elements by type. We've only got one element type, plates here. We can turn those on and off. You can see it also gives us element count for that type. Working down to shape, it breaks up our plates into quads or tris. Say you were really worried about mesh quality and you wanted to find any tris or view only tri elements here. Might give you an idea if you have some geometry issues or small slivers. Working down further, we've got materials. Again, only one, so that makes things simple. And here's properties. So the same thing, the same way we could turn on and off groups, can turn on and off properties. And those are all the entities that we have in our model right now. We don't have any loads or constraints. So that covers it for this one. George, anything you wanted to add on the bracket? George, I think he's muted.
Hello. No, I'm here. I had it on mute. So,
thank you.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Let's move on to the transmission.
Yeah. So here is a beast of a model. You can see down here, once it updates, we're at about 2 million nodes. We've got 6 different element types. I don't know, maybe close to 100 different properties, and it's a real hassle to organize this thing. And a lot of times we want to really select carefully what we're viewing because it's such a large model. It can be quite slow to render, to move. I'm going to try not to move it just because of the internet connection. We don't want this thing lagging and slowly spinning around. So I'm going to leave it where it is, but we'll work through the tree here in blanking different entities. So here's my geometry. I'm not going to cover that. That one's pretty straightforward. But we'll go right into element types. You can see I've already got a few turned on here, a few turned off. Now, something I didn't cover in the bracket is right-click and the different options it gives you for selecting. And this gets more important the more you have. So rather than clicking on springs and turning everything off one by one, I can right-click, show selected only. There's my springs. You can work your way through, show selected only for any of the element types. And that makes it a little bit quicker than individually clicking. Also, we can hold shift select multiple and use that same command for multiple element types that we've selected. There we are. A few other commands is show selected, hide selected, using those for adding to the already current set of selected element types. So show selected versus show selected only, that just adds those in to the mix here. All right, moving down, you can see with more element types, we've got more element shapes. And again, the counts for the different elements, you can see that we have 541 rigids, 13 point. The same sort of breakdown that you get with element type. So I'm going to go ahead and show all, so that when we move on to different organizations through materials and properties, we can see everything here. So in materials, I've got five different materials which I've organized the model with, and I'm going to do show selected only. Here you can see where I have multiple element types. I've got beams and plate elements sharing this material, steel. You can turn on ductile iron. Give it a second. There we go. And I can also use properties in conjunction with materials. We'll just go ahead and click a few of these to turn them off. So this just really shows you that you can use blanking to get a very specific view. We've got multiple properties, element types. We're hiding individual properties, individual materials. So once you get comfortable with this, you can use a combination of elements type, shape, material, and property to get the exact view you need without actually creating groups and modifying the groups. So here's a great, this is a great example. Just because there's so much here, you really have to spend some time to get the right views that you need and be able to do it quickly. A few other things that I wanted to cover with blanking here is these commands up top. So say you've gone through and you've checked and unchecked, and you've gotten to a point where you're not really sure how to bring a few elements back. They've hidden themselves and you're not sure what to click. We've got reset all visibility options. Give that a second. So that's a good way to start over if you've gotten to some point where you've hidden the entity and can't find it. Here we've got everything turned on, nodes, surfaces, the whole shebang. Another one I like to use here is collapse expand all. As you open these menus here and expand, it can get pretty large. You can expand all, and we can collapse all. So we're back to our original setup here. So that covers all of your different blanking options that you could use directly from the model tree. Those same sort of blanking options are available in visibility. Select multiple. Oh, maybe give it some time. Like I said, this is a huge model and it's kind of slow. So I usually recommend that people start out with the model tree using different materials, properties, entities there. And then the visibility, you can see it has lots of different options here. So as you get comfortable with that and you're looking for more options, the next level of complexity is the visibility dialog box. You can control your groups, layers, boundary conditions. Here's our materials and properties, just like we control them from the tree. What else do we have? Connections, if you're doing contact, element types. So it gives you a lot of the same options that you have in the tree. It's just a different organization. You know, with all the commands in Femap, there's multiple ways to get to the same end goal. So you can always find something that works for you, that you're comfortable using. All right, we are done with the Mustang here. Let me bring up another model and show you how using groups can help out with analysis. I've got this tricky little assembly here. I'm showing the quarter symmetry that I've meshed and the original CAD. If we go back to visibility, we can turn off geometry. So here's just a nice little piece that we've repack meshed. And initially I ran through and I did a full nonlinear analysis, contact between all the parts, material plasticity, and it was quite a bit of work. And say we wanted to simplify things and we just wanted to do a piece part analysis of this blue bracket here. You know, back up a little bit, go a little more simple. I don't need to delete and wipe out everything and rebuild my model. I can create a group. We'll do new group. We'll call this piece part analysis. Now, what we're going to do with this group, this will be our entire world as far as the analysis is concerned. Because when we set up the analysis, we'll specify that we want to focus on this group alone. So we need to make sure that this group has everything we need for the analysis and nothing we don't. Right now, I created a new group from here. I didn't generate a group with the operations, so it's just an empty group. We activate that. We have no entities in it. So full model. I'm gonna do it using this menu here and just work my way down, adding nodes, elements, materials, properties, all this that we need for the piece part analysis. Now I've already created my loads and constraints, so you guys don't have to watch me fumble through that, but I'll show you how to add them in. So first, I think it'll be easiest to grab the elements that we want, and then we can control other things, leveraging the elements. We'll do element, and they give you a variety of different methods here, by material, property, using geometry, etc. We'll just go for basic ID. And we've got, kind of the same methods here as well. So we'll select elements by property, use this. And now let's take a look. We'll show our active group. You can see that I've added elements of that property. I'm going to go ahead and turn everything on so we know exactly what's in our group. Now, go back to the full model. You can see we've got constraints, nodes, geometry, all of this. We need to make sure that we get exactly what we need in our group. All right, next is nodes. And I will use the onElement method. I want all of the nodes on these elements. There you can see when the view updates, we've got nodes in our group now. Material. And we can just select our material. Property. There we go. So we're slowly building it up. And so now when we submit this group to the analysis, we'll have material data and property information. I don't have any layups, loads. I used a pressure load, so I'll need to grab elemental loads. Since I only applied the loads to this section of the model, I can just select all. If you read carefully here, it says select elements used by entities. So it wants us to know which elements have the loads that we want to include. Just to be careful, we'll select here. And there is our load. Now we'll add constraint. I created a nodal constraint. Now, just as I did for the loads, I could select out in the screen here. I'm going to introduce yet another way of picking. Here is a way to pick groups for your entity selection. So we're going to select our constraint by nodes. Since my group here has all of the nodes I'm concerned about, I can use this group to select the constraints. And there we are. So we have everything we need for an analysis right here in this group. You can see we've got symmetry constraints, a little vertical constraint on the inside of that mounting hole, more symmetry, our loads. So this is our whole world for the analysis. Now we need to create a new analysis. What we'll call this piece part analysis. And work our way through here. Here we are, portion of model to right. So this is basically telling Femap that the only thing we want to submit to the solver is what we have in this group. And we'll just make sure that we have our correct boundary conditions, piece part analysis, okay? And we are ready to analyze. Now this shouldn't take too long. I'm going to go ahead, while that's running, I'm going to go ahead and turn off a few entities here so that we have just what we need to view the results. Okay, here's our results. Contour. We're taking a look at maximum principal. So basically this part is bending and we're getting some tensile stress right at the hole there, as you'd expect. Now if we go back, I've got results from my multi-piece assembly nonlinear analysis. We'll go ahead and activate those. You can see that the changes in results are very small. 37.4 up to 38.4. So a great way to do a piece part analysis when you've got a complex model. You don't need to delete and wipe things out. You just got to make a group of what you need. I think that pretty much covers the groups. We've got visibility here. We talked about that. Now, there's always more ways to do this, and if you're still searching for some sort of option, some sort of visibility that you need to control, we've got view options. And this is the classic way to control your view, and it's probably still the most comprehensive. You have every single type of entity in here. You have full control over the color, the size, the type of display. So if you are at the point where you can't control it with either the model tree or the visibility dialog box, take a look at view options, and you'll be bound to find some sort of way to view what you need to view. You can see it works the same way as the visibility blanking or blanking from the tree. It's just a little bit slower because you have to search through the different options here. But element, what I did is I turned off draw entity and hit apply. So like I said, it's a little slower, but you've got all the same options and more. That about covers it for the things that I had planned for the webinar. It's kind of short, but grouping is something that you've just got to spend a little time with, playing around, and you discover exactly how useful it can be. I'm going to take a look to see if we have any questions. George has been online probably answering questions here. It looks like he's got most of them covered. Okay, is there a way to copy results directly from the FO6 file, the NX Nastran monitor? I might get back to that one just because we're not exactly group related, but yeah, we can show you how to do that. And it looks like all of our other questions have been answered. So, George, unless you have any other topics we should cover on grouping and visualization.
Yeah. Hi. I was thinking on the Mustang model, going back to that and showing how you can make groups via properties and materials on large models, and then viewing those groups with the visibility option. You know how you go to the left-hand side of the group?
Yeah. All right.
Just to reinforce that concept.
Yeah, showing that you can blank groups the same way you can blank entire entities. So
yeah,
we'll do,
it's a little sneaky.
Yeah, so we'll do the generate commands that I talked about. We'll generate properties, and we're going to select everything. Again, this asks if you want all in one group or individual groups. You can see we've got individual groups for each property. We activate.
Right, and now going to the left, on the left-hand side, which is something I stumbled across.
Yeah. So the view active is the original way to control the groups, but these commands aren't really what we want to play with, because these are the new ones, and they're a little easier. So we can start out with show selected group only, and it's the same sort of clicking on and off for blanking. It's the time for the model to re-render.
Right, and show that once you're working within a subset, you can move the model around quite quickly, and that's how we are working on this. Is that it's like you would say a very large CAD model. You're only working with a subset of the model at any one time. And this is the smaller version. We actually have another version that's 3 million nodes, and it runs in it's nonlinear contact, because we're doing bolt preload and everything, and it runs in about an hour. But no, the performance not bad. It's just one of those things. That's the advantages of using all the blanking in groups.
Yeah, and something that I think you get with groups, the blanking of groups, that you don't get with other locations in the model tree, is it's not simply on and off, but it's include, exclude, or off. And maybe if I have some material groups as well, I can show kind of how that works, the Boolean subtraction that it does. I'm going to go back to operations, generate material, select all, and yes.
Oh, and then you're going to combine. You can combine groups from the tree.
Well, what I was going to show here is we'll show all of the ductile iron components, and then using the click here, you can actually, one click, the first click will include property 2, which is already shown because it's ductile iron, but the second click will exclude.
Bizarre. Oh, a user mentioned go to the view style thing and do a cut plane now through it. Yeah, that thing. It's a very, very nice hidden command. And now set a cut plane down the YZ axis.
YZ. All right, right, so that was just setting my plane where it's going to be. Then we'll go ahead and turn it on. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that with the blanking over here, you have the ability to exclude specific groups from the view.
Yeah, I didn't know it. It's like another one of those things, and of course these are just visible. Then what you can do is you can have another group that's active, some other group that's not seen, and you can, whatever you add or create entities, they'll dump into that active group. So it's amazingly powerful, but it's something that takes a little time to figure out.
Yeah.
Now, if you like all these view settings, I know we've talked about this before, is that Femap dumps, this is all a database of view options, view settings, and there's a title. Click on the banner there and right-click, and so once you get a view setting you like, you can manage them. You can give them a name, and you can save it into a library. And that's under the visibility settings, and you can dump it into a library, and you can manage all these various views. And you can also tell Femap under preferences to load a particular custom view when you start up. So, and there's macro languages too, lots of customization.
Yeah. That's how my model comes up, preset with the my preferred background color. All right, I believe it's views.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
yeah.
There's one of them.
Here's the view library of all the views we've saved. We'll just pick them.
Okay, so that's all that's for me. Hit the resolution while you're there. The other little hidden secret. So we do a lot of cut and paste straight from screen, and this is something that was a concern, that if you just do the resolution on the monitor, which would be screen, this is the prior version, 10.2, all you got was the screen resolution into your PowerPoint.
Here.
Now what they've done is...
give an example of the two qualities here. We'll dump into a PowerPoint. All right, so here is...
Yeah, that 4 times the screen resolution.
Yeah, some of them come in a bit large. So here is screen resolution. I'll go ahead and back out so you can kind of see the size of a PowerPoint slide. And when you really got to zoom in on certain parts, say we needed to crop this down, and we just wanted to view this section here, and you get to the point where you blow these up and it's quite grainy. You don't get a lot of detail there. Then we'll go back, preferences, resolution, and we'll scale it by 4. Okay. Give it a second. Copy picture. And that was using hotkeys there. File, picture, copy. Now when we go into PowerPoint,
yeah, because you don't have an icon set up on your screen.
No, I prefer the hotkeys. But
yeah.
When we dump this in, it's 60 inches wide. You can bump it down to 8 here. Bring it into the middle of the screen. And now if we were to crop it down to that same segment we had and blow that up, there's kind of a side-by-side and resolution.
Graphics, very important.
Yeah.
That is sweet. That is so nice.
That's
the only other. Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to mention was the new version of Femap is right now they're finishing up beta. They're supposed to lock up the version next week. Then it's going to be out most likely toward the end of September, and it will have an all-new free body diagram setup. It's going to be a pain. You won't be diving into your free body diagram via the view select. It's a separate pane. It's quite impressive. It's everything for free bodies. They've completely redone the mesher for solid models. It can now almost mesh the impossible. It's now meshing stuff that the advanced NX simulation can't mesh. It's one of those very interesting technology that they're doing. We're meshing these solids here you're seeing on the transmission. We're meshed in 10.3. We couldn't get them to mesh in 10.2.1. What else? 10.3 also comes with the NX Nastran version 8 within it. And so that will be out in September. As soon as it hits the streets, we'll send you guys a note with a download link of how to get it. And you will need new licenses for it since it's a major release. That's it from my side.
Excellent. Well, yeah, like I said, we have a few questions, but we might follow up with those. Yeah, do we provide the webinar online? Yeah. So we'll follow up with those afterwards by email. But I just wanted to thank everyone for coming and checking out another one of our webinars. And looks like we'll wrap up 10 minutes early. So thank you all, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.